The DJI Ronin M is a camera stabilizer. There are three physical components: the stand, the gimbal with the handlebar, and a remote controller. There's also a smartphone app to help manage the device. Even with our limited experience, Tom, Doug, and I were able to get great shots while running alongside jogging dads and cycling kids.
Whichever
Or
model you're
walking
with,
backwards.
You have to be prepared to have a pocket full of batteries ready to go.
Unboxing, configuration, and setup are easy, but balancing can be tricky with adjustments in 4 directions. First, configure the camera. I'm using a Sony a6300. Adding any attachments, I'm adding my Rodelink Filmmaker receiver up to the 3.5 kilo weight limit and remove the lens cap. The balance is very weight specific, which means that each change in weight, or even zooming the lens, may require an adjustment. That said, the gimbal is motorized, so it's easier to balance than the older Steadicam type stabilizers that work with a counterweight. You'll see in a minute. Attach the quick release plate to the camera. For larger lenses, there's a lens support attachment. It's not needed for this configuration. Slide the camera onto the gimbal, approximate balance, and lock. Set the vertical tilt using these locking arms. The camera should now be facing up. Balance the roll axis using these knobs. Then adjust the quick release plate to set the camera level. At this point, you should be able to orient the camera in any direction and it should remain steady. Turn the gimbal around so that its back is facing you to make the final adjustment for panning. And first, connect the battery. Release the lock arm and turn forwards or backwards until there's no spin when the unit is tilted. After doing it a few times, it's much simpler and faster than the first time. And for most minor camera adjustments, moving the quick release plate back and forth is sufficient. Now turn the Ronin on and it snaps into place. Using the app, use More to calibrate the system, then Gimbal Auto-Tune Stability to fine-tune. The Ronin will buzz and whir, setting the appropriate parameters. The Live Data tab should show small power numbers, so even if your balance isn't perfect, the Ronin makes it right. The lens was set at 24mm, but if I zoom in to 70, the tilt power goes up to 6. I moved the quick release plate back to compensate. There are markings everywhere, which make getting back to a specific point fairly simple. The a6300 is at the light range of the Ronin's range, so I also tried the heavier combination of an a7S II with the full-frame 35mm f1.4. Although the settings are different, it's all within the Ronin's capability, and setup and performance is the same. If you need more setup detail, there's a useful video from DJI. I found it took me several tries before all of the steps were clear and I'd mastered the technique. Turn the Ronin on and the system locks in a stabilized position. Now you're ready to fly. Press record, pick up the unit, and go. I'm using autofocus continuous, which works really well on the a6300. And as you can see just by watching me move the Ronin, the camera is fascinatingly stable. In the app, the Smooth Track tab enables pan, tilt, and roll. When all three are off, the camera retains its direction regardless of movement, as you can see when I spin around. Turn pan on, and now the Ronin pans as I turn, although you'll notice I start to move before it does, and it takes a second to finish when I've stopped. Those parameters can be adjusted. Use the deadband setting to determine how quickly it starts. The speed governs how quickly it moves. I reduced the deadband and increased the speed. While it's much easier to shoot with the Ronin than any stabilizer I've used in the past, framing a shot perfectly is a skill that is clearly acquired over time. But even a beginner can use the system effectively. In the few weeks of this evaluation, I can see that I'm getting better, but it's a work in progress. For now, just keeping the shot a little wider. Tilt, pointing up and down, are similar, although I was tempted to pull the handles towards me when going up and away when going down. It's the opposite to get the Ronin to tilt down as you move the camera up, and up when you move down. Well, those are the basics. The Ronin weighs 2.3 kilos plus the camera, so if you're out on location, you'll want the stand handy to put it down between takes. I've tried other stabilizers, passive ones that use a counterweight. Balance for those is extraordinarily tricky, so the Ronin with a motor-driven stabilization system is a revelation. So much easier to set up, and if the balance is off slightly, the motor easily compensates. And then there's the motion. In 3 weeks of shooting, there was literally not a single shot that doesn't move smoothly, even if you jump down or run flat out. When you watch the footage, the wow factor is off the chart. In addition to the standard underslung mode, the Ronin can be turned sideways for a tight squeeze. However, I wasn't able to master the upside-down upright mode. I babied the Ronin, treating it with care and caution, as is appropriate for a pricey piece of kit, but it does feel sturdy and reliable. It can be pushed beyond its boundaries, at which point it loses control. And although we wanted this shot to roll from -15 to +15 as we rounded the corner, somehow we couldn't get it to cooperate. There's an optional accessory mount with 1/4 and 3/8 threaded holes. Mounting an LED light isn't a problem, but even with a Manfrotto Magic Arm, I wasn't very happy mounting the Shogun. I'd recommend mounting a quick release plate on the Ronin's mounting plate. That way you can take the camera off easily without having to rebalance. That also provides a little more clearance for larger lenses. The kit includes 2 batteries. They seem to last for several hours and snap in and out easily. The viewer tab in the app monitors capacity. I'm showing the app on an iPad, but it works best on a phone you can tuck into your pocket. The remote is really an option I could live without. Although it works well, it requires an extra pair of hands, as well as a monitor so the remote operator can see the shot. Too complicated. Not sure why you can't buy a Ronin without a remote at a lower price point. At a higher price point, it comes with a carrying case, and there are models for larger cameras as well.
Although it's heavy, shooting with the Ronin is exhilarating. Its moves are smooth regardless of how rough and fast my motion. From its ease of use to its spot-on stability, the Ronin exceeded my expectations in every way.